Good day, everyone. This is CEN, your collective entertainment network. If you like and enjoy what you see today, please make sure you hit that like and subscribe button to be aware of all future content that will be coming to our channel, as well as future streams. With that said, I am your host today, GM Mason, and I am here today with my players, Brian, Ray, John, and Rose. With that, we will be getting into today's session of Azria, a Dragon's Treasure.
Dramatic pause.
Intense dramatic pause.
We have no sound on
Are we
Ray.
good? Are we good?
We're back. Yeah, we're good.
Oh,
Don't
okay.
worry. I had it under control. I was like, go,
Okay,
go.
Okay, hold on. Everyone center yourselves again. We'll try that again. In the year 795, roughly speaking, the Goliath Benrai, Lord of the Mountain, descended from the eastern slopes of the Crowns unto the lands of the east. Along with his 7 companions, he conquered what is today Almather, seat of the Cold Dawn, and therein began the great conquests of the eastern city-states. Time and time again, Benrai's leadership and trust in his allies overthrew the misguided armies and powers that had brought nothing but chaos and needless conflict to the people of this world for centuries, even overthrowing the once impregnable fortress city of Tobin's Crossroad and its infernal protections. Within 5 years, the Imperium of Might was born under Benrai, having taken the name Emperor of Thelmor I. Today, his royal house and the 7 great houses continue to serve the Imperium as its leaders, guiding us into the future that our first emperor foresaw, even as we are protected by the great heads of each house, who constantly stand ready to defend and deter every great threat, be it monsters, invaders, or even the great dragons of the north. By their strength, we are made great. Or at least, that's how the propaganda goes, isn't it? Caspian. You stand at attention in front of the desk of Velos Harlech, recently titled Duke of the Capital Province, and while you do not typically answer directly to him, he has led command on larger operations that you have been a part of. Wrong tense. An older man, probably mid to late 60s, age and sun showing on his face, but nevertheless, he still has a full head of gray hair and an impressive mustache. The corded muscles in his neck and his posture show no signs of infirmity, while the calloused hands testify to his experience with the sword at his waist. He closes the history book he has been reading from and looks up at you, his eyes briefly shifting to the glowing gem before switching to your good eye. So tell me, Saren, what do you think of the Imperium and the Blue Bloods that run it?
I think that the shining light of the Imperium is what this world needs right now. The barbarian hordes left to govern themselves are murder, conquer, pillage, and worse. And within our borders, within our city here in Tobin's Crossing, you can walk the streets at night and not worry about getting mauled or destroyed. And I want that for them out there.
Very well spoken. Would you care for a drink?
Always.
Well said. I'm important now, so I actually get some of the good shit too. Let's see. There we go. This one looks expensive. Pours a drink for you. Pours one for him. Hands it over to you. And then he doesn't sit down quite right away. He drinks while standing with you. Let me get to the point here, Saren. You're an exemplary soldier. You and your men, all of you, incredible records. Honestly, I wish I could say that I had trained you myself, because whoever that was ought to be glowing with pride. You truly bring honor to this great Imperium. That said, I'm disbanding the 50th. I know what you're thinking. This isn't about any failings. Quite frankly, it's the opposite. You and yours have been doing too good of a job. And the vicious dragon of jealousy is starting to rear its head amongst some of the nobles. Rumors have already started circulating about the cause of some of your successes. Once again, you see his eyes shift over to your eye. And shit like this, quite frankly, ruins careers. But I will be damned if I see that happen to good men. Thankfully, I'm a fucking blue blood now, so I actually have some perks. I want you to know now that the official statement is a redistribution of assets. You and your men are going to be scattered, but I'm going to do what I can to make sure that your men stay in groups. This is to keep you all safe from those who may be trying to take out competition. But for you, I have a special job. I'm going to call it Project Shore Leave. Though before we really talk on that more, I need to ask, how do you feel about dragons?
Ah, I understand.
And from there, we are going to depart our scene and return to the present. For,
Well done.
for Sienna, Einar, and Theros, the three of you have more or less completed your job as requested by Saul Hatchman. Having dealt with the orc ambush, though not without the loss of Joxer, the once and future king, you were intercepted by Otlink's Munnin, the first son of the White Monarch Kara Munnin, whom you were to deliver Samuel. After burying your comrade, you were all teleported to an undisclosed location and were led to an apartment of some sorts for rest. For you, Captain Caspian, following the instructions you were given, you were intercepted in the Northern Crowns by a strange fog. And you were then instructed by some unseen person to follow and obey. Eventually, you were directed to land, and the fog retreated, revealing a landing platform where you met Vinsix, the second son of Kara Munnin, and were asked to wait in the very same apartment, where the four of you, along with your entourage, met. After a short rest, you were all invited to dine with the dragoness herself, and now find yourself sitting at a beautifully carved long dining table. Kobold and dragonborn servants alike unveiling and placing foods of all kinds and all sorts in front of you. To the right from where you entered, a roaring fireplace with an actual internal seating area. It's one of those old school fireplaces where you could actually go inside and enjoy the heat. And to the left, massive panes of glass or crystal that look out onto the snow-covered mountains of the Northern Crowns and the cloud-filled sky. In the distance, the sun setting, pouring colors onto the vast underside of the cloud cover like a canvas. Kara herself is in a humanoid form. She sits at the opposite end of the table from all of you, a beautiful young woman of pale skin. Her white gown adorned with all manner of pearls, of clear, translucent gems, of silver, giving almost the impression of snow in the sunset light. Her hair wound up into a very tight bun. A shading of blue around her eyes, the only color on her. She appears delicate, fragile, even, especially when compared to the two 9-foot tall half-dragons that stand on either side of her. In contrast to you all, only a few plates are placed in front of her, and she very daintily begins to eat with her own knife and fork, but never once do her eyes look down on her meal. Her sharp blue eyes remain on all of you, and you cannot help but feel the pressure of her presence, though malicious or benign, you cannot tell. With that, as the food dishes are placed in front of you, Vinsix waves his hands, and the various Dragonborn and Kobolds leave the room. He then pulls out his wand, points it at the door, and you hear a click, and there's a brief pulse as the door appears to have been magically sealed in some manner. As you all sit and begin to sort of taking account of your surroundings, Kara begins to speak, even as she begins to eat her own meal. I wish to formally thank you for joining me on such short notice, but I wish to personally thank you for bringing my future son to me. It has been a long-standing desire of mine to establish more formal connections with the communities outside of our hallowed mountain, and there is no better way to do that than through family. After all, family is everything, is it not? Simultaneously, you guys notice that Sienna is suddenly there's a pixie like sitting right next to Sienna, enjoying the meal as well. No announcement or no explanation, but Sienna does not seem to be paying much attention to it as Caspian makes faces at it from across the table. She looks around at you all expectantly.
Truly, there is no bond deeper than that of family, but the bonds of friendship are also quite deep, and I am very appreciative of you extending them towards me, and I'm sure that my companions would agree with such a statement.
Her eyes rotate around the rest of you as if looking for an affirmation.
Absolutely. Captain Caspian has made a great point. Friends and family could be the foundations of any good and long-lasting reign.
Your words are most appreciative. Do correct me if I am wrong. None of you have ever been to Demiurge, correct? I feel I would know for certain if any of you had.
That would be correct. I hail from lands further south, and this is the farthest north I've ever been.
Yes, your people from the far south. It's rare for me to see your kind up here.
Well, with
I'm from home.
Her eyes land on you. Do tell, how are my coward siblings?
I continue drinking.
I do recommend the third one to your left. It has a nice kick of honey to it. And for you, good Theros, it does seem to you seem to have a bit of an inflection in your voice. I recommend the second one on your left. It'll do good to loosen that up.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Not used to the cold.
Of course. I do apologize. Would you care for more furs? I have quite a wide selection from all over the continent.
At the moment, your company is warm enough.
Quite a charming voice.
Mother would have it no other way.
And to you, I believe the name is Miss Belfour. How do you find the meal?
The best meal I've probably had. Thank you.
And it's a vastly wide selection between meats, fruits, vegetation, um, all sort of meals prepared in a large manner of ways. Some obviously fried, some boiled, some cooked, some in manners you're not entirely sure as to which. Um, Honestly, the sheer amount of food that is placed in front of you, you would find surprising, even with Einar present, for your group to be able to go through or even necessarily make a huge dent in. I am not typically one to mix business and pleasure. Sadly, I must turn what was intended as an act of gratitude into a request of assistance. Artlings, can you take care of the windows, please? Her elder son immediately pulls out his wand, flicks it towards the windows, and you see as the glass darkens and becomes almost black. All of you seeing that the very dramatic like reflection of the fire as well as yourselves now in the windows. Vinsix also takes out his wand, flicks it around in the air, and there's a brief pulse, and you feel as if there's some sort of warding that may have been put in place.
Well, perhaps our business could be your pleasure. Tell me, regale me. What can I do for you?
Interesting way of putting it. This morning, I have unfortunately suffered a most terrible tragedy. For those of you who are unaware, Caspian, you of course may have noticed this after you landed, but you all stand in a mountain fortress built long ago to be a watch, built by the dwarves, of course. However, the vault within this fortress that contains my most treasured possessions, my dearest prizes, has been broken into. The criminals have stolen away with a particularly valuable and personal treasure of mine. I would see it returned, and I would, if you are of course willing, call upon you to reacquire it for me.
I would be eager to help you with this, on behalf of the Imperium and myself.
I see no reason why not. This does seem to be in my area of expertise.
Paradromos would be glad to help.
Theros, you gonna eat that one? Or that one?
Slides it over.
Thanks. Hey, watch out! Don't eat that. I'm pretty sure that's human.
It's a very nice, crispy, almost pork-looking meat.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Slide that over to Einar.
I don't touch the stuff.
I am most appreciative of this, of your assistance. Buenas Stegander. What of you?
I wasn't listening. What?
Would you care to help a dear, sweet woman acquire a very precious bauble that has been taken from her?
Where is she?
You're quite cheeky.
We're not going to leave this place alive here.
One of us isn't.
I appreciate your assistance. The fact of the matter is that because someone was able to infiltrate my vault through my wards, my suspicion is that they may have had assistance. Which, of course, I will be investigating into as well as my sons. But nevertheless, it makes it difficult for me to pursue this treasure.
Well, you should probably get your own assistants then.
As an aside, might we, before setting out, take a look at, are you aware how they infiltrated your vault?
We have some ideas, yes. Vinsix has been looking into it for the course of the day, and my first son, Ortlinks, will be taking over it now that Vincent's future son is here. Although this is not necessary, I can continue. Did you question me? Vinsix, unfortunately, must retire at this moment. He is, as you might imagine, most eager to meet his own future son, and has been quite exhausted. Although that's not at all. Did you question me in front of our guests? You are tired. You will go, and you will meet your future son. Somewhat deflated, the 9-foot tall half dragon nods, steps away from the table, circles around, and leaves through the front doors that you guys had entered through. As Kara turns back to you.
Until next time, Vinsix.
He doesn't even stop for a moment to look at the rest of you and proceeds out of the room. The door closes a little bit louder than you probably imagined it should have. Apologies. He is most tired and it has been most stressful on us.
Understandably so. There's been a lot of excitement here with the break-in and the excitement of new family members. I can understand the stress.
Thank you for your understanding. This is, of course, an unheard of event. Actually, it has never occurred where our vaults or any treasury amongst any of the three of us, my sibling rulers and I, have ever been invaded. It is quite a bit of shock. As to answer your question as to how they may have infiltrated, from what I understand, Ortlinks, you should have been informed by your brother. How did they manage to get into my vault? Ortlinks, who this entire time has been staring straight ahead, very relaxed, responds, "It appears that there was a previously unknown secret passage that led into the vault. We are tracing its location imminently and will be closing it once we have figured out where it empties out into. I will be informing you all tomorrow morning as to its exit."
And if I may continue questioning your ladyship, what's the nature of the stolen treasure? What is it? Is it gold? Some sort of jewels?
Truth be told, if it's all the same, I would prefer not to share the nature of the object in question. I will leave it to say that it is an item of very personal nature, quite possibly the most valuable thing I own, and it would be catastrophic if its existence were known to either of my sibling rulers.
Understandably. In that case, how about a relative size? Is it as big as a man, an arm, a hand?
It is of sufficient size. I would say likely just a little bit shorter than your cat fellow over there, she says as she nods towards Pogo, who this entire time has been sitting in his chair, hasn't moved, and has just been staring. You're not sure whether entirely out of fear or awe or pressure of this moment. It is of, as I said, substantial size. But even things of such size amongst a city such as this, where creatures of all manners of shapes and sizes walk and dwell, such things can easily be overlooked.
Of course, thank you.
Are there any other questions concerning this?
Two. One is, if it's a secret passage that wasn't known, does that mean the previous tenants might have aided in whoever was seeking after your treasure that was taken?
It is certainly possible. However, that is a solution, a answer I would rather prefer not to be the case. I have no reason to indulge in my sibling brother Lyson's hatred of the dwarves, at least as of now. I have already sufficiently taken what I want from them. If they were to be directly responsible for this theft, I do not wish to see such a future come to pass. And your second question?
Since you were wanting us to find and I assume retrieve your lost item, I assume this is something you don't want getting out, that it is something we were actually looking for, so discretion would be advised?
In all manners possible. I will of course grant you access to the full city of Demiurge proper, but beyond that I cannot necessarily directly assist you, even my son Otlings. My sibling rulers are very tenacious when it comes to us keeping an eye on each other. I cannot even guarantee that there are not spies within my own household, just as I have spies in theirs. We like to keep tabs on each other. But yes, discretion would be utmost necessary. The object in question is not dangerous, if that is a concern. Not in and of itself. But knowledge of its existence would alter the power scale here.
Is the item in question contained within a box, or is it itself? I'm trying to. How do I put it? The common is a second language. How would we recognize it's yours?
Once you see it, you should be able to recognize very quickly what it is. It will probably be something that none of you have ever seen. But there is also various wardings placed on it, which is also one of the reasons why I cannot simply retrieve it myself. The wardings were placed by me and were placed with the full extent of my ability. There are few people in this realm who would be able to find it or even know that it exists, which all the more makes this important that it be found and returned.
And I imagine if you were to go searching for it yourself, that would very eagerly clue off the eyes from your two sibling rulers, who undoubtedly pay very much attention to every step, one quite as magnified as you would be taking.
Make a general charisma check for me, John.
Oh crap, I'm gonna die. 11.
Okay. Your subtle honeyed words do not go unnoticed. That's all you. That's all that's all the text that shows up at the top of the screen.
I gotcha.
It is vital that they not know at all that even that my vault has been breached. This is a very embarrassing fact. Theft is something that wormlings endure. Someone such as myself is not one to suffer such things, let alone allowing intruders to escape and get back into the city and out of my sight. She's at this point she's gripping the table, and you do hear a subtle crack from her end. She releases the table and returns to clasping her own hands.
The frustration is understandable. There is nothing worse than a thief. And I take it you would care to dispense justice to the actual thieves if they are located. Would you prefer them handled or brought here for sentencing?
I would leave that to your discretion. The thieves themselves are one thing, but the returning of this object is far more important. If that means that you must spare them, so be it. If you can kill them, or if you must kill them, I should say, it is improper for a lady to insinuate that she would wish to see murder and harm placed upon another creature. But should they coincidentally be cut down and chopped into little pieces and left to rot in the ground, then so be it.
Whenever we get a hold of these thieves, I have a particular talent for interrogation, shall we say, and I would be more than happy to give you every last one of their secrets.
Delightful.
Uh,
I must say you are possibly the most charming Imperium officer who has ever come to my fortress, seeking my favor.
I thank you for such grace. I imagine that that's a very small regiment indeed.
With that said, are there any other questions? Ortlinks will of course be able to give you a full report and necessary information tomorrow morning once he completes his investigation. Are there any other questions, though, that you may have for myself?
I believe all my questions will lie with the noble Otlinks.
I half expected Einar to say, is there more of this?
You'd see a few empty plates.
I love Einar. He's such a cool character, man. I'm sorry.
Not phased at all by this entire conversation, just eating away. It's great.
Yeah, not even paying attention, catching little bits here and there. I almost, I almost said something that would have probably got me killed, but not gonna say it.
Actually, there is one more thing. In order to apprehend this thief, I would need to retrieve my weapons from my mount and to carry them with me as I walk through the city. Of course, I would require your permission, but this is not seen as an act of war or sedition or anything worse than that.
You need not worry. Almost every citizen of Demiurge is armed and capable of great violence. Though I do request, if at all possible, please do restrain yourselves. It is difficult to calm the masses after great acts of violence. And also, I would hate for you to bring attention to yourselves and possibly be taken in by either of my siblings. We all have guardsmen under our authority and control.
Discretion, of course, but my weapons are particularly conspicuous.
And of course, you will not go unrewarded. I wish to clarify, this is not a mere act of charity I am asking of you. You will first and foremost receive my favor. And while to smaller creatures that may not seem like much, my favor will guarantee you safe passage through these entire mountains at any given time, so long as I am alive. And you will of course be welcome in Demiurge at any given time. I cannot grant you my favor now, however. That would seem rather suspicious. But do this for me, and you will become my most treasured allies in these mountains. Yes, Einar.
We go to bed now? You're done talking, right?
It is quite late, isn't it? I will, of course, send Ortlinks. He will meet you all tomorrow morning in your living areas.
Oh, you're not done talking, okay.
I thank you all for your patience. With that, she stands up. She turns and gets ready to leave before she pauses for a moment and then looks back at the rest of you. Miss Belfour, would you care to accompany me for a moment?
Yes, it'd be my pleasure. I'll go with her.
All right.
As
The
you
rest
walk behind Theros, he's like 3 feet to the left.
With that said, Aunt Lynx will wave his own wand. The glass will clear, showing a cooling sky outside. The sun has set, and he will lead the three of you back to your rooms. Uh, while Sienna, as you follow Kara, she leads you out of the room through the back passage, and through here you see a much more simpler hallway, less overtly decorated um, than the previous ones you have seen. Um, as she walks along the hall, she speaks to you. You know, I must say I do love the color of your hair. It is quite delightful, quite a fiery presence. And your scent, like a mix of nostalgia and anxiety, like regret and fear, like hope, very reminiscent of a witch I once knew. You see her, she kind of looks back over her shoulder at you. Are you perhaps a relation?
I know of part of my lineage, if that is what you're referring to. I don't know many. Oh,
I do apologize. It is rare for me to be able to talk to other women in my circumstance. I have only sons, and most of the servants I can't really be vulnerable to. It is good to be able to have a bit of girl time. She stops on one wall, reaches out a hand, gently pokes the wall, and you see the stones seem to ripple and then open. Behind it, you see what appears to be a small enclosed space with a metal floor. After you.
I'll go in first.
She steps in behind you. The stone once again sort of melts. And how tall is Sienna?
About 5'7".
You are very much struck by how tall this woman is. She is somewhere between 6, 7 feet tall. You're not sure if she's wearing heels. You're not sure how much height the bun gives, but she is very tall, despite her more delicate appearance. You feel a shift in the ground beneath you as the walls around you begin to rise. You begin to descend.
I have a very bad feeling about that.
Miss Sienna, may I call you Sienna?
Yes.
Tell me, what has been your impression of this lifestyle? This, are you mercenary or adventurer?
Sometimes the jobs I work walk a fine line in between. Sometimes they sway more to one than the other. I'd prefer to be an adventurer, but mercenary work always comes with the territory.
The love of discovery, the love of finding the unknown. It's wonderful, isn't it? It's one of the things I experienced when I first came to this world. Discovering magic in a whole new way. Discovering the secrets of this place. Unraveling it. Taming it. Controlling it. If I may give advice from one woman to another, do not
Please.
trust them. They are
Them who?
here, the men you are with. They are here as allies. And they may at times seem like they will be there to protect you. They may be at times act like they will never betray your trust. But they are still creatures. They still feel death. They still have their own personal desires. The only person you can truly rely on is you. From an old woman to a younger, the elevator comes to a stop. One of the walls once again sort of melts and unfolds in front of you. You look ahead and you see a short room with a large metal door, a vault door. As you approach, she waves her hand and the door begins to unfold. It just starts to slide off to the side, pushed by some unseen force. Inside, you see mist. A white mist fills the room, which once again, she waves her hand and the mist divides. You see a path going before you, which she begins to walk down. You get the impression that she expects you to follow.
Yeah, that's the kind of the I can't go back up anyway, so I'm kind of stuck following her.
As you look around, you can still see things through this mist. You see coins, you see jewels, you see books, you see scrolls, you see treasures and weapons, you see staves, you see all manner of glittering prizes, everything an adventurer would want to acquire. But you also are able to notice there is a layer of frost on all of these things. You have a distinct feeling that if you tried to reach your hand through the mist to touch any of this, you would not
Freeze.
get it back. There's a brief moment where you're distracted as you feel your foot hit something, and as you look down, there is what appears to be a pile of dust at your feet. Oh, I do apologize. That we haven't really been able to clean that up as of yet. That is, we imagine, one of the intruders, or what's left of him. She continues forward, and eventually she takes you what appears to be a golden pedestal. There is a slight curvature to it. And you get the distinct feeling that there was something that was once held here.
How big is the indention? Does it look like it'd be like an egg size? Because I feel like it's like an egg size.
Make a, what would this be? Like a, I guess, make a nature check.
That one.
You have no idea. It could be egg size, could be a sphere size, and it might be that the points at the ends are slightly raised, so maybe it was a square that sat on top. You're not sure. Might be a chest set on top of this that has been taken entirely. You are unsure. As you get to the pedestal, she circles it and she looks over at you. May I ask, you have your heritage's gift, sight, correct?
That is correct. I tend to see things that linger in the past more so than the future.
Serendipitous. If you would be willing to indulge an old woman, can you see the past into this pedestal? Can you see what was there?
I will use my ability and touch the pedestal and see what I can see from it.
As you reach out and touch it, you feel the cold of the gold. And then there is a heat. As you concentrate, you feel heat, not as if the metal itself was heating up, but something else, something within it. As you feel this energy surge up your arms and up to your eyes. To the casual observer, your eyes flash in this silvery glow and darkness. You are surrounded in darkness. You can see nothing. You can feel nothing. this is unusual. This isn't typically what would happen for you. And then you hear voices. What languages do you know?
I speak Common, Sylvan, Giant, and I know sign language.
Okay. You do not recognize the language that is being spoken. You hear these voices calling to each other. At first, whispering voices, calling to each other, talking to each other. Um, you hear questions. You hear statements. You hear shouting. You hear yelling. And then you hear a pulse of something, possibly magic. You hear it twice. And then stillness of feet running on stone. And then the vision ends. You return once again, your hand placed upon the pedestal. Kara staring at you expectantly. Well,
It was strange. It was very dark, and it felt dark, and there was nothing to be seen, but there was voices talking. I'm not familiar with the language that was spoken, but they were talking. And it almost sounded like magic had pulsed once and then a second, and then all of a sudden it was quiet and still, and then it sounded like the people that were whispering were running off.
I suppose it was too much to ask. This entire room, this pedestal especially, is heavily warded. I was hoping if there was anything that might be able to see through my own magic, it might be your powers. Perhaps a red witch is not strong enough to beat this. Ironic, isn't it? I'm one of the most
Can I
powerful
try to
magic.
replicate the language that was spoken to her, even if I don't understand it? Just try to mimic a few of the words to see if she recognizes the language.
Go ahead and make an intelligence check. I would say this would be. Or, you know what? No. Make a performance check. Language typically has a flow and a melody to it, so this would be something that I would say is more performance to try and imitate it.
Can I use a fate point to re-roll that?
Absolutely.
Ten.
10. You try, but some of the voices sounded a little bit more on the masculine side, or at least deeper. So you're not entirely. It's difficult for you to really kind of feel like you can replicate. Um, yeah, you get the feeling you might, if you hear it again, you might be able to recognize it. But as far as copying it or replicating it, it's outside of your shtick.
Yeah, I'm not a linguist. If I heard
Regardless,
the language, I might be able to recognize it, but I don't. I'm not skilled with languages. I haven't been well traveled enough, I suppose, to be familiar with any of that was said.
but regardless, we at least learned something, and hopefully this will benefit you in your coming investigation. I do thank you for indulging me. Well, come, let us return you to your companions, and you need some rest. With that,
Thank you. If there's anything else I can do, just let me know.
oh, I shall. With that, she leads you out, leads you and returns you to your apartment. In the meantime, the three of you have been led by Aunt Lynx to said apartment. He has once again informed you that if you require anything to pull on the bell, and someone will be along shortly to serve you. And he would be there in the next morning, ready to inform you of the results of the investigation. Yes.
While we were walking, I would like to subtly cast Detect Thoughts.
Who are you casting, or just in general? Are you
Yes.
targeting anyone? Okay. Um, I believe you, with your specific archetype, you're actually able to do that too without.
It's a deception check to do. I got a nat 20 on the deception check.
You are very confident that no one notices you casting this.
Yeah,
There
my
are-
DC would have been a 12 since it's a second level spell. And I threw the description up in the roll 20. I'm not probing for deep thoughts. I just want to I want to get a hint of what this guy's surface thoughts are as we're talking. And I want to try to guide the conversation while hearing what his surface thoughts are on the thing.
Okay. So that I'm not trying to do a double speak thing going on. How do you guide the conversation? What do you sort of orbit around?
I want to orbit around his thoughts on his brother, his thoughts on his mother. Like, oh, she really had control of that room. Do your brother and your mother often clash that way? She had mentioned that there were possible spies in her court. Um, do you have any inkling of who the thieves could have been? Just like sort of seeing what he thinks about when I first asked those questions.
Okay. Um, when you start talking about Kara, you feel his thoughts shift, and you very much get the immediate sense that this man idolizes Kara. Strangely, he doesn't even carry the sense of uh mother towards her. It is less of a sense of a son caring for his mother, and almost like a very passionate zealot who serves their leader, their monarch. Um, he very it's a very strange understanding that he is her son, but he doesn't necessarily view her as his mother. In
That
a
gives me
motherly sort of sense. Yeah, not at least not in that kind of emotional sense you would expect. Um, when it comes to Vinsix, you get a very brotherly affection from his thoughts. Um, you get a sense of concern, troubling second child. I need to probably talk with him. We need to get this down. I want to see the best out of him. Um, what you might expect from an affectionate older sibling who wants to see the best out of their younger sibling who's being in their rebel phase. You do also briefly find out too that Vinsix is apparently somewhere in his late hundreds. He's like 83.
okay.
That's a thought that comes up and comes to mind. Um, so it was discussing Kara, his feelings on his brother. What were the other questions?
I was just going to be like, do we have any sort of, since you're the head of the investigation, are there any leads, any directions that we should start looking in immediately or start thinking about looking in immediately?
As you mentioned that, you're actually astounded by how rapid fire his brain goes. There's almost a cacophony of surface information that just runs across the surface of his thoughts. Um, which immediately, first off, gives you the impression that Otlynx is very, very highly intelligent. Um, one of probably the most intelligent humanoids you have met. However, there is a frustration and anger in there as well at his own failings and his inability. And how could I allow this to happen? I have this entire city watched. How can it be possible that someone would infiltrate the vault here under my watch? There's definitely a distinct like frustration and anxiety about it. But as far as who it might be, there's a flurry of faces that run through his head, and you get the distinct feeling that it is every single servant inside this entire place. And he is going to be very thorough in his investigation as to what help or what assistance may have been offered, what breach there might have been to permit this atrocity in his mind.
After getting that, I'm going to say something along the lines of, I wasn't in town at all whenever this happened. I was intercepted after. But were I to be the one to try to intercept this vault, were it I that we're going to try to rob something from under the nose of the dragon queen of the mountain of Demiurge, I would think that my first obstacle would be to try and figure out a way to get past her great defenders, you and your brother. That would be a significant portion of my plan, were I to be the one having to commit this theft. Basically, I'm trying to build up his confidence subtly by attacking the insecurity he was just thinking of. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'd say go ahead and make a persuasion check for me. And I would say go ahead and give yourself a +2 to whatever you roll, because you have been very charming throughout dinner, and to Kara, you've been as far as his opinion of you has gone, you get the sense that he thinks that this is a man who knows what he's talking about. He recognizes proper authority. What's your roll?
I got a nat 1 for a total of 4, and I got a 7.
Okay. You go on and you say this, and attempting to build up his confidence, but as you're reading his surface thoughts, there comes this cacophony of, "You're right. This is our failing. This is my failing.
Oh,
This
shit.
is my failure. I must correct this. I must be thorough. What can I do? I must better myself. The two of us, we both must become better." And there is now a planning of an intense training, both magical and physical regime that is now going in place through his head for himself and for Vinsix. You get this feeling that Vinsix may not appreciate this later.
Yeah.
While he's doing that, I kind of nudge him and be like, "Hey, where do you keep all the good food?"
Yes. Apologies. We will send additional food to you shortly.
I was gonna say, before the end of the spell, I want to turn it to Pogo and Theros and Einar just to hear their surface thoughts on what's going on.
You just heard his surface thoughts.
You just see various images of different kinds of foods that Einar would prefer to eat right now. There's a lot of butter for whatever reason.
Listen, butter is everybody's favorite food. They just don't want to admit it.
For Theros, what are your surface thoughts as you're going through as he's going through this? I know I just spoke for you, Brian, but I feel like I was a very accurate.
I spoke my actual thoughts.
That's something I'm going to note too. That's useful.
Sir Theros's thoughts are they bounce between what would be our first step? Where would we go in town? They're probably trying to get rid of this quickly, trying to fence it, or this was under the direction of one of the other rulers, so
you're working the problem.
Working the problem. Then his thought shifts to Pogo and his lack of manners. I've got to talk to him about that.
Pogo, by the way, didn't eat anything the entire time.
Yeah. And then his other thoughts were, how do I spin this to gain favor for my house with another powerful ally? Do I complete do I bring this up before I complete the task? Do I do it after? That's just kind of what's rolling through his head. And as far as Pogo goes, all you see are the eyes of Kara Munnin, and just like, pretty, small.
I was going to say, yeah, he is not even paying attention. All that's going through his head is Kara, the eyes, simultaneously fear, and she's so pretty, but she's so terrifying, but she's gorgeous, but she could kill me, but she's beautiful. And this constant back and forth of his head bouncing between fear and adoration.
Yeah.
And mild arousal.
And then worried about the arousal, digging into the arousal, worried about it.
Did anyone notice?
Yeah.
Roger that. Thank you for indulging me,
No problem.
guys.
With that, eventually, Sienna, you reconvene with everyone else. You guys all have what is left of the evening for anything you wish to do or to accomplish before you take your long rest.
I was gonna ask Theros a question. I almost called him Thalos again. I was gonna ask Theros a question.
Okay.
Would you happen to speak Dwarvish by any chance? If we're gonna be in a city, people that took it might speak a language I don't have.
Unfortunately, I did not take Dwarvish as the elective. I actually took an extra history class for that one, so unfortunately not.
I can understand the language of those under the mountain.
Could you say a few lines, possibly? She showed me the vault of where the thing was, and I'm not sure what I heard, but I think it might have been Dwarvish, but I don't know.
In Dwarvish, I will say, gems and diamonds could not temper the flames of your heart.
As he speaks this, for whatever reason, there's a flourish to how he says it, but besides the flourishing part, it does sound similar.
Would it be, does Dwarvish sound different enough, like, compared to Elvish? Like, I can tell it, like, it may be Elvish or Sylvan, or versus, like, the Dwarvish, and, there's another language that uses Dwarvish script that kind of sounds similar. Can I tell it's a different group?
I would say, given your low roll previously, again because this is not necessarily a language that you were familiar with, Sylvan and Elvish, absolutely, you can distinguish those guys apart. You would know sub-dialects of that. You can tell if something is Elvish, or if it's closer to Sylvan. That's easy for you. Dwarvish, you can recognize that the words seem to be Dwarvish, or at least the flow and the flow of the language seems similar. Um, Whether it's possibly any other language, you're not sure.
Yeah, rolling out Elvish and Sylvan, though, still helps, though, so I'll take it.
Why
It
do
does
you ask?
sound-
Do you have a penchant for limestone poetry?
Thank you for the Twitch follow. Sarcastic orgasm.
How perfect! It was the line about the diamonds that did it. Man, I love that name. That is something. I'm surprised they love that name.
Thank you for the laugh
With
too.
With that, back to Caspian and the charm switch, which is fixed in the on position. Limestone poetry, go.
I have a knack for finding lost things and knowing about them, so she thought maybe I would be able to discern it past her words, but I wasn't at all. All I heard was some voices, and I didn't even know what the voices were. But I do have approximate dimensions of what sat up there, but I mean, it's hard to tell.
Is that so?
I'll start with my hands kind of measuring. Yeah, the pedestal was about this big by yay big, and it had the little ledges here, and so made out of gold.
Look at you, Sienna. Maybe I can help solve your problems. I need Sienna to make an intelligence saving throw.
Go for it, unless you choose to willingly fail.
13.
So there's no components because I got another nat 20 on my deception check, and she fails as I use Delve Mind.
All right, what does that do?
You delve into a creature's mind, forcing it to make an intelligence saving throw on a failure. For the duration or until you end, you gain access to its memories from the past 12 hours. It will recall things it remembers as if they are your own memories.
Okay.
I immediately get 12 hours worth of Sienna's point of view.
Yep. So yeah, you were able to see. Oh, actually, in that consideration, I also would like you to make a wisdom saving throw then. Not Sienna, Caspian. I would like
Wow.
you to make a wisdom saving throw.
Another nat 20. Roll
Great.
20. Roll 20 loves me tonight.
Roll20 likes you. All right.
Wow.
There's this rush of
3
information.
in a row.
This rush of information flows into you. There's a brief moment where you see, let's see, within 12 hours, you see them traveling through the snow. You see these, the followers, the boy that they were with, the other people who were in their party. You see the orc ambush, which gives you a tense moment, but you were able to remind yourself, this is but a memory. This is not actually occurring to you. And there's a bit of a relief as you see Sienna stab these various different orcs. You see the arrival of Otlings. You see their arrival here. You literally replay the entire dinner that you just went through, and you see as Sienna is walking with Kara Munnin, they have their conversation, which you are now privy to. And you see this moment as she reaches out, she touches the golden the sort of golden placement, and it's weird because your vision sort of splits briefly as you are receiving now information from what she physically sees, which is just you just see her hand on this altar, but then you also simultaneously see this just absolute black darkness, and you hear the various statements that are in Dwarvish of various different voices who are, as you are listening, they seem to be discussing. They're going over the traps that they are working their way through. You hear actually even briefly a bit of incantation from an arcane incantation. Then you see their voices starting to get louder, shouting. You hear them referring to each other as colors. For this, you hear at least a few colors are mentioned. You hear Mr. Blue, Mr. Green. You hear Mr. Violet and Mr. Orange.
Okay, cool.
But as things are going on, you hear a shouting. You hear the mist is coming back. It's coming too fast. Wait, don't do that. And then a brief pulse of magic. And then someone else saying, What did you do? Why did you do that to him? He could have made it. And then another pulse of magic. As what occurs, you obviously can't see, but you hear the fleeing footsteps and coming back, walking with Kara and returning to this room. And that brings you up to date.
The only other thing I want to... What does Sienna think of me? And what does she think of Einar? It's 12 hours.
Say, all things remembers as if they are your own memories. I would say make an insight check at advantage. Because I would say this is a little bit difficult to tell just from raw memory.
Like, while I was talking, she looked at me and she thought, man, that guy's a pompous asshole. I would have heard it.
Insight
12.
I'd say you would be able to get probably the impression of one of those. You can either get the impression of yourself or the impression of Einar.
Me.
What do you think? What is your general impression during dinner of Caspian?
wouldn't say pompous asshole, but more he's really good at making higher ups feel important as to not gain favor, but to get them more to let down their guard a little bit, to almost gain information. He's good at talking around a room, I guess is the way to put it. He's good at talking around a room is kind of what I would put. He knows what to say at the right times to make people answer.
A kiss ass, a brown nose.
And for all intents and purposes, I gain all this information in 6 seconds. So just as I look at you, you see nothing but my face and that big ugly eye. That big yellow gem. And reflecting in the gem, you can see movement. It looks like you moving around. But I'm going to say, huh. Okay, well. I believe that there are some folk that refer to themselves by colors. But I think that Dwarvish, and I'm going to repeat some things that were said. Yeah, just
taking part traps, some incantations, that brief bit at the end.
Yeah, I'm just going to repeat it to her so that she knows that I know. I think that you did a wonderful job. And I'm going to back away from her.
We should tell Kara Munnin that it is Dwarvish. That way she knows, because she was curious and didn't want to. She didn't want to say it was the dwarfs without actually knowing. But if it is the dwarfs that were breaking in, then she needs to know, just in case they do decide to rebel against the city, possibly.
Well, we don't know that they were Dwarvish, just that they spoke it. I can speak it, and I'm not a dwarf.
And
Let's not report anything until we have concrete evidence.
And these thieves could have just been hired. It's the person who pays the money that we're after. Outside of the actual treasure.
Absolutely right, I think.
All right.
I'm going to ask Saren, since he saw my memories, what does he think sat on the pedestal?
I mean, this is like secondhand. I would say you would be able to at least know, as far as sizing of what was there. If the pedestal was made for the object, then you're looking at something that's at least equal to or larger than 3x3. It could be smaller. It seems unlikely, considering this is literally a dragon's vault, and it looks like she's had time to like really organize it and make it aesthetically pleasing. Even the placement of the pedestal is on a raised dais in a portion of this vault that you were in, and there are very clear paths leading towards it. So it's unlikely that the pedestal is just frivolously not made for whatever object sat on it. So you'd imagine it's at least 3x3. It might be larger depending upon how it was meant to sit on it, but it'd be at least 3x3.
I do that with my hands, and I say, I mean, I didn't see it, so there's no way for me to tell it. You're just, you have a pretty bad poker face there, kid. I just smile big. And, I had rolled a nat 20, Rose, so you would have got one of your fate points back.
You rolled a few nat 20s, so I would get all my fate points back.
She has all the fate points. Really strangely, for whatever reason, like throughout this conversation, you've been feeling like you've been rejuvenating your energy quite well. Don't know why.
It's like not to when he starts eating fire and whatnot to gain his power back. That's what I kind of imagine. It's kind of similar to, which is kind of.
So, I see your short swords, and Cytheros, you carry a rather large and imposing cleaving great axe. Einar, do you require any weaponry?
A large selection of like deep fried fruit that has appeared on the table since Loaf has been left to her own devices.
You see him kind of like reach into his best, not vestment, like I don't know, his weird clothes. Like they're not dragonborn clothes, but they're also like they're kind of like really bad patched together like human clothes.
It's very custom.
Yeah, it's bespoke. And he goes, I have some, but I I prefer to use my hands. And he pulls out two hand axes. He pulls out a spear that kind of like twists together, puts it down, and he pulls out a pouch full of darts. He goes, "There's that," and then I breathe water.
Well, I'm going to go retrieve mine. I was going to offer you use of any if you required it. Anybody feel like going on a walk and seeing the night sky?
Absolutely.
DM, my weapons are stored on Noble Argento, and I did ask permission to retrieve them.
Yep. As you exit the room after this, there are guards who are actually waiting. They were politely waiting for you to have a moment to either summon them, it appears, or to come out to them. They do escort you. They walk you through the halls, up a couple flights of stairs, and you do come out onto this huge, massive platform. You do note that this does not appear to be dwarven architecture. This appears to be much more recent and of I don't think either of you would be familiar with dragon architecture, but you would assume that it would be draconic architecture.
Yeah, not me. I just speak it.
You are led across the platform to what appears to be a set of stables. There are a couple creatures actually in here, a few flying, a few birds, a couple interesting things. But you are led to your griffin. Would you care to describe your mount for us?
So I've kind of let the art speak for himself, but he has these white downy feathers going along his back, and he's covered in this sort of bronze armoring, and he has the silver streaks going across both the feathers on his wings and the down feathers along his back.
All right.
And I'm going to retrieve my pair of my pistol and my musket, my two firearms from Argento, as well as my horn of gunpowder and my bag of patch and balls. And
I have no maturity.
yep, powder patch ball.
Oh god.
And yeah, I'm gonna load up.
Okay.
It's the pistols and musket in the art on the channel in the Discord.
Easy enough. Despite how like crossing over the actual platform was incredibly cold, but within this actual stables, it is surprisingly warm. You feel the heat actually almost coming up from beneath you. Um, but no, you do that. You guys are. You can tell that your mount is going to be very well cared for and very comfortable in this space. Um, for you, Theros and Caspian, unless there's anything you wish to specifically talk about or do up here, you retrieve your weapons. Uh, you are returned to your room.
I'm going to while we're talking, I'm going to say, Theros, we come from opposite sides of the country, but both of our peoples can benefit if we're able to impress upon Kara Munnin both the worth and value of uh, inter-country diplomatic relations.
I completely agree. The issue is, how do you impress a dragon?
Apparently by finding its toys, but
Hmm.
I have the sneaking suspicion that this is going to be harder than it looks.
As do I. I don't think this was. It couldn't have been just a simple theft. This was planned. This was funded.
By someone who knew where tunnels not even they knew of. So the question therein becomes, were the tunnels always there and hidden, or were they created specifically for this purpose? And the other question, the other burning question I have about all of this is, why now?
Yes.
Is it something that they knew was there and they waited until now to execute, or did they just jump at it as soon as they could after discovering whatever item it is that they took? This, I don't know, and I start giving him the dimensions that I saw. It's about this big, whatever it is.
That is roughly the size of Pogo. But I agree. The timing is fortuitous. The arrival of and celebration of new family and marriage. But what also is, this is such a precious item, and it would cause such great anguish and concern among the ruling community here. The fact that someone else outside of this family knew its existence seems almost improbable. Now, at first thought, it was Vincix, who was led away from dinner. But I feel that's almost too easy. And obviously, most concerned, accentuatingly,
that it wasn't hot links. He is almost zealous in his beliefs.
I've noticed a weird family dynamic myself. It seemed a little different. Then again, cultures. But if that's the feeling you've got, I will respect it. I don't know if there's many thoughts. There's a higher up in the family structure has betrayed for power or gain. But then again, not to sound as crass as one in my position can be, you could always look toward the help.
Also, I don't know exactly how many children she has, but it seems that the first two are the favored. Perhaps she has a disenfranchised third, fourth, or 12th.
Possibly. And but another concern, it's obviously family, but it's like, who in town would be willing to risk this? And finding them is I think, might be difficult, because they would. I know if I stole something like this, I would be immediately going to ground.
Sing out to us. And I have a modicum of some magic, and I'm going to pull out my ritual book. It looks like a wizard spell book. Um, though I am no wizard, I have some modicum of arcane talent to assist us. And I think with the four of us, our varied backgrounds, if we put our head together, we just might be able to pull this off. And she's not lying when she says that her favor is very valuable.
Oh, absolutely.
And I imagine that the pay will be pretty nice too.
I agree. It is quite the puzzle laid before us, with possibly dire "we didn't do the job" consequences.
A job like this, I think, but
Yes.
best we get to it.
I concur. Oh, by the way, your griffin is a noble and magnificent beast.
I thank you. He is of a noble bloodline of griffins, which is why his name is Argento.
Argento.
It means silver.
Oh, it plays perfectly with his silvery feathers, are they? I'm not sure the correct terms. I've only seen pictures.
My unit, the 50th, was an air cavalry unit, and I've since had Argento for years.
Yes,
You have your post, and I have my companion.
Yes, I have my pogo. Feel free to pass along any advice you might be willing to the young squire. He needs all the help he can get.
I appreciate that. And if I step on any toes, be sure I would like us to have an open dialogue between things if we're going to maintain a business partnership.
Absolutely.
I'd rather not end up at the wrong end of that very large cleaving axe of yours.
And I don't want to see you there.
Fantastic.
I think we head back to the room.
All right. You guys make your way back to the room, and unless there are any other events that wish to occur or happen, you guys all go to your various separate rooms. You take a long rest. You are rejuvenated, restored. The food settles surprisingly well, and you awaken next morning. As you guys step out into the central living room in however order you wish to do so, Otlinks is already there. He is in your central living room. A large plate of chilled fruit is resting on a platter, and he has various papers and reports sitting in front of him. He looks to you all almost expectantly, as if he has been waiting there already for quite some time.
I'll sit down and ask if those are the reports that we are to look at.
These are, of course, some of the various informations I have been able to ascertain through the course of the night. From what we can tell, the vault itself has a series of lethal traps, some of which have, of course, been set off, others were disabled. However, there were no bodies. There were only piles of ash that remained within the vault. However, none of our traps are designed to destroy victims. We prefer to be able to extract whatever information we have should the vault be invaded. And it also makes it rather difficult to make an example of those who would dare question Kara Munnin. The bodies were, most likely, from our estimation, destroyed by co-conspirators, possibly to conceal information about the group themselves. Now, in accordance with cooperating with my brother, Vinsix was able to, as you know, discover the previously unknown entrance into the vault. We were able to follow, however, the passage, from what our scouts were able to inform us, was collapsed roughly partway through.
May I?
Now, yes.
Was this particular tunnel new, or was it of an older design?
Based upon our estimation, it was of dwarven architecture. However, it was considerably well hidden and was rather contrary to typical dwarven architecture, as it had no dwarf signs to indicate its presence. It's the only reason why I had not personally found it.
Yes, dwarves are really good with their stonework.
They are. It is most excellent. I have spent a great deal of time studying it in my studies of the city as a whole. Regardless, we estimate that the trajectory of the tunnel likely led it down to the Green District in the city proper. You may not be aware of this, but it is still a considerable hike, as you put it. from the mountain fortress up here down on foot to the city. More than likely, the thieves only reached the bottom when you had arrived just yesterday. As I said, it went down to the Green District. Let me see about my notes. Now, considering the fact that they were able to use and discover this passage, this figment of dwarven architecture, is most likely that they are familiar with said architecture. While this would indicate that outsiders may be possible, we have been here for quite some time. Both goblin and kobold kin are clever and curious enough creatures that they may have found the passage themselves, even themselves familiar with some of the architecture. It is a possibility that this might have been merely a zealous supporter of one of the other dragons hoping to win favor by stealing from her eminence. However suicidal such an attempt may have been. In the meantime, we've yet to spot anyone leaving the city carrying items of a similar description that were immune to divination magic.
My divinations have uncovered a piece of evidence throughout the night. Revealed to me was that the co-conspirators used code names based on colors of the rainbow. They spoke very natural and fluent Dwarvish. And indeed, my divinations revealed the same, that the co-conspirators were the ones that ashed the ones falling behind.
Interesting. I will add this into my notes for my future investigation. It was Caspian, correct? We did not formally meet yesterday.
Captain Saren Caspian of the Imperium of Might, and he's going to stand straight.
Yes, you were the one with the honeyed tongue. Interesting. I will add that into my notes into our investigation, but that is troublesome. It's certainly possible, though, that even conspirators within the city may be using Dwarvish as a means of cover. Possible it might have been Crassus, then. That makes no sense. Crassus wouldn't try to steal. It is interesting of note. Thank you for bringing this to my attention.
I have 2 questions.
Yes.
Are all the districts labeled color? And furthermore, what is specific about the Green District?
The Green District is where the greenskins live. That would be goblinkin, orc kind. A few ogres make it their dwelling. There are some outsiders who are accepted by the community and have chosen to settle there, but it is called the Green District because the majority of the population is green in skin color.
And my second question, you mentioned Crassus?
Yes, Lyson Crassus is the Red Lord. He is one of the 3 monarchs that rule here in the city, one of the 3 ancient dragons. Quite frankly, I find him tedious and boring.
One could even say crass?
He has an unfortunate kink when it comes to the lesser races. But it is not my place to judge a full-blooded dragon.
Nor ours. What are the other districts?
There is, of course, the general district, which our freight elevator drops down into. Arguably speaking, you could describe the primary assembly yard as a district, though it is not officially called one. It's a large space that the dwarves used to amass their armies before we obliterated them. Presently, it is used as a sort of tent city for some of the travelers who may come and wish to reside here temporarily before leaving. Centaurs, minotaurs, even fauns and satyrs will occasionally travel through here, as well as trade is conducted with outsiders there. And there is, of course, then the Forge District, which is controlled by Lyson Crassus.
In a different direction, if you don't mind my asking, Kara Munnin had mentioned the possibility of traitors within her household. I'm aware of you and your brother. Are there any other, perhaps disenfranchised siblings that, or perhaps servants newly hired? Who's in charge of the servants?
That would be me. I am, as the first son of Kara Munnin, I am in charge of all administrative duties, both of hers within the city as well as within the household. My heritage grants me certain advantages in those regards. I do not require the need to sleep, which allows me to keep my mind constantly occupied upon the needs of the house.
That sounds extensive. Were there any newly hired servants in the last, say, week?
There have been 4 to 6 who have been interrogated and summarily dismissed. As far as additional siblings, no. Karamunin is very specific about those whom she takes as partners. My own father, though he himself made a terrible mistake, was himself a high elf from the western side of the continent, from the Brazilian woods. He was supposed to act as an ambassador. However, he sought to use his relationship with me to gain advantage over my mother, and so I killed him. As for my brother, his own father was a dragonborn from the Isles. However, despite his good-natured attempt to bring relationship between us and our distant cousins, he was killed by pirates. As far as other siblings, there are no other siblings. There are no other half-dragons besides myself and my brother. My mother only, her eminence, only breeds the most efficient children.
Quite right, it seems. That does shoot down my theory of thinking. How I wished that it wouldn't fall upon the dwarves. Though, wishing in truth, you know how that goes.
Quite. But it is for the sake of but it is for the purpose of those in power and those who are given the power to govern, to not wish for the future, but to make it happen.
Quite
Regardless,
wise.
if there are any other theories you wish to converse or go over, I am, of course, at your disposal up until we reach the city.
Are there anyone else in the city who regained some kind of power or control, but maybe not to be like of the noble dragon class, sort of like um, a leader of, like, say, the markets or something of that nature? I would describe it in my own words as like a crime boss, if you would, because this type of endeavor, no matter whose fault it is, something like this would have to be well funded, well researched.
That is something that does worry and concern me. There are organizations, social organizations within the city, that may possibly be responsible. One of the most suspicious, I would assume, would be, in my personal opinion, would be, it's impossible to pronounce it the way they do it. It is a group which goes by the, what's the word when you bring all the, when you just use the first letter of each thing? Acronym?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. They use the acronym of LLPLOSP. They are a organization which is founded by outsiders. It is the Lycan League for the Promotion of Lycanthropes and Other Shape-Shifting Persons.
Shape.
It's quite the mouthful.
Yes, well, smaller creatures like big things. Regardless, they have been doing a sort of, what do they call it, a rally in the main gathering area where the markets are, around the Lycate statue, for the past several weeks. In fact, that was one of the groups I was going to suggest, possibly to interact with. They are, besides being a potentially suspicious group in and of themselves, possible they may have insights into others who may have be participating in this, outsiders, so to speak. In addition to that, the Greenskin District is, of course, always a place to go and look into your question of possible criminal lords. The goblins and the orc kin are themselves very tribal, very powerful in the sense that they like to bicker. And it is certainly possible there may have been a smarter one among their ilk who may have thought bigger of himself and sought to try to steal from us.
All right. Yes, a lot of the less developed races seem to be that tribal bickering type.
Yes, though there are, of course, exceptions, such as your own kind.
That's why I said less developed.
Yes.
Point of view.
Quite. Are there any other questions or insights that you would like to discuss?
Actually, yes. Otlinks, from what we've incited about what happened, one of them would have to be very skilled with disarming traps, more so than the most if they were set up by you or your mother herself. So they would need to hire someone deft at that would be discreet enough and be willing to do it, as well as a mage or spellcaster of some sort in order to use the magic to turn said someone to ash, so a powerful mage, or someone with the ability to obtain a scroll or something of that power. Are there any groups that around here that deal with magic commonly that you know of that would, or more than just parlor tricks?
Truth be told, it's one of the troubling aspects about this. The level of magical acumen one would need to be able to challenge even mine or my brother's magic, let alone Kara Munnin herself. The persons with such expertise would know better than to participate in... Is that a pixie? Oh, she just blinked out of existence. That's strange. Regardless, persons of such caliber would typically know better than to participate in such a reckless act, such as challenging Kara Munnin herself. That is not to say, though, that there are not those of less talent who may be borrowing power. More than likely, from what you're describing, is either possibly a person using a scroll or an object capable of such magic. As far as persons within the immediate area, I cannot think of any other practitioners of the arcane who would be able to put up such a challenge, other than possibly Zenobia, the Green Sovereign. Like my mother, she is, like her eminence, she is also a practitioner of magic, but typically she is more secretive about her abilities in nature. But as far as others, there would be no one, at least to my knowledge, within the confines of the city.
What about someone who could procure enough high magic leveled spells or items in order to hand off to someone if given the right amount of coin? Is that regulated here? Magic items in and out of the city?
As far as any sort of underground trade, we permit a level of underground trade so as to give people the sense of people work better if there's enough of a sense of anxiety that they think that they can get away with something. We permit a level of disillusionment when it comes to these things. There are what you might call underground trades here, but we are fully aware of all of them, and we permit and, in a sense, regulate them. We ensure they do not bring anything too dangerous within our city. But we allow those who participate in such things to think that they are getting away with it. It is possible that something strong or powerful may have gotten through such trades, though unlikely. You do get the sense that his statement is a little bit on the prideful side. However true, who knows?
Given that, and one avenue we might venture down is to see if we can put a false ad into the underground to see if anyone could procure that item or has heard of it and see what comes of it. But if that were to do so, since you are aware of that, I would let you know that that would be false. It's something that we could look into and see if any leads come up by posting a false ad either for someone skilled enough to disarm traps or someone who's recently able to procure a magic item or a scroll able, of that level, and see if anyone bites on it, given enough money to back it.
Your best bet in that regards would be to seek out the Green District. They do a lot of underground trade in there. The sheer number of goblins goes a long way towards concealing some of the things that are going on. Though again, nothing that we are not aware of.
Sienna, are you suggesting that we draw out the actual thieves by pretending to have been the thieves ourselves? That is inspired.
That is a fantastic idea. Play on their pride. Bring them right to us.
Anyone foolish enough to steal from Kara Munnin would probably be pretty boastful about being able to steal from Kara Munnin in those circles and would not like having that spotlight stolen from them.
Hubris is the fall of many great heroes. That truly is an inspired plan. Have you done this before?
That pixie's back.
It was the pixie.
Regardless, is there any other questions I could possibly answer? Yours is an interesting idea. It would certainly play into the foolishness of such a person. Only an idiot would dare challenge her eminence, knowing that she would more than likely destroy them in given a moment. Are there any other questions for you that I might offer, any insights I might give before I take you to the elevator?
Who built the vault?
The vault was originally built by the dwarves before the dragons first arrived.
Are there any descendants of that family that built it?
We unfortunately are unaware. We are very thorough. Well, Her Eminence was very thorough when she arrived. Her and her sibling rulers decimated the dwarves that were here. Though it is possible some members of the dwarvish royal family did escape and their descendants live, it is difficult to believe that they would return so easily. But we have no way of tracking their lineages. There are some who take residence here in the city, and dwarves are welcome, since they pose no threat, though they are watched. Are there any other questions or insights I might give before I take you to the elevator?
I think.
None that I
Go ahead, Ruth.
was just going to say none. You've been a great help.
Echo Miss Sienna here. I believe that it is time to hit the streets and gain some answers to questions and find new ones. And if we need your immense insight, we will contact you.
With that, you guys all gather your things together. Is it just the 5 of you? Are you guys bringing Pogo? Are you guys bringing the Drakes? Who among the party is coming?
Pogo's coming with.
Okay.
Sod is coming with, but in my backpack.
Okay.
I'm bringing
Pint and Loaf are gonna go. Bubbles is still in the bathhouse.
Bubbles
Bathhousing.
has been sculpting castles out of bubbles. It's actually really impressive. All right, so you got Pint Loaf and Pogo with you, as well as the familiars. All right. Otlinks leads you out of the room and to another door, another passage, where as it raises up, it is a very large metal platform. There are also a couple doors on either side of this as well, which look to lead to other smaller platforms. Sienna, you are able to recognize this structure very quickly. It appears to be an elevator. However, there are what look to be handholds on the ground at your feet, which as you guys step onto it, Otlinks reaches down and firmly grips one of these handholds. You guys follow suit? All right. You guys follow suit, at which point the doors close, and the ground, you feel like the ground would have dropped out from under you if it weren't for the fact that you were holding on to these grips. You descend rapidly. You feel that lurch in your stomach as you feel your organs starting to rise up.
Sir Theros catches Pogo about 2 feet off the ground.
Pogo did not actually grab one of those things, and he does start floating right away as you kind of grab him and pull him down. Which point he grabs it. As you guys all you feel the rapid descent as this dives deeper, and you almost feel like the light starts to vanish even from this elevator shaft, despite the ever torches that are in here. And it comes to, and you feel as it begins to slow, and you eventually reach the bottom, and there's a clink as you reach the very bottom of this elevator. And if you guys look to roll 20, welcome to Demiurge. As the doors open, you look out upon a vast cavern. Actually, I do have box text for this. Where's my box text? There we go. The doors open, and as you all step out of the elevator, you are immediately hit with the sense of being in a big city at night. As you enter into this large, huge, massive courtyard, a massive circular space that centers itself on a large, crystalline statue at the center, with all manner of goblin, orc, dragonborn, kobold, minotaur, centaur, satyr, even fauns, all various different kinds of species and creatures of various different sizes and shapes, wandering through a vast tent city. The edges of this space are marked with what might once have been proud, towering statues of dwarves, but have since been broken, toppled, some defaced, some repurposed. Stalls have been set up. Even buildings along the very edge of this have been turned into stores and restaurants. There's a mixed melody of children climbing and playing on a broken head of a dwarven statue, not even that far away from where you are. This is a vast city that is alive, is breathing, and has numerous people throughout it. As the elevator comes to as you all reach the bottom, Altlink steps out along with you all. As he turns and nods to you, and he says, "I will not be able to help you much from here on out. You will be on your own, but my recommendations are to pursue the Green District, see if you can turn up anything in there, as well as he glances over towards the statue, check with the Raleigh people. If there is anyone new here in this city, they most likely will know. With that, I have duties to attend to. Good luck, and keep us apprised of your situation." As he turns and he walks off into the masses, and honestly, like a fish walking through a school, or like a giant shark walking through a school of fish, everyone parts out of his way as he continues into the mass.
Sir Theros,
Yes.
did we perhaps get a way to contact him?
I was going to ask, but he walked away.
Figure it out when it's time.
I'm
Theros,
sure.
you feel a claw on your shoulder as a purple bird with a humanoid face leans out from around your mane, as Violet Lillimirian is with you.
Ah,
This is going to be good.
you again.
Hi.
Hello.
Where's my meat shield? Pogo! There you are. Come here, meat shield. You're going to carry me. He flops over to Pogo.
Nope. And Einar just picks him up off of Pogo. Nope. You can walk.
What? Oh, I don't
I hate-
walk. I have wings. I don't walk. Come on.
No, walk.
I'm cute and
No,
pretty.
walk. Walk.
Starts waddling. Waddles up to your leg and leans
Don't
against
you-
it.
Don't
looks up
you
at you.
dare. Don't. I have not had anything to drink today. Don't. Nope.
Starts rubbing his head on your leg.
How big is this thing? How big is that?
It's probably about a foot tall. It's not the same size as it's smaller than Quinn, but it's probably about a foot tall. It's like the size of a parrot, but it's got a very interesting humanoid face to it. But beautiful plumage, purples and blues. It's just absolutely, honestly, a very beautiful bird.
You know how people kind of do like the quick like scoot with their foot to like a cat? They're like, get away from me.
You know how
That.
birds kind of hold onto your leg and
Say his name again.
His name is just Violet.
Violet.
I will lean down and offer out my hand like you would to a bird.
He steps up, fluffs. Thank you. You're my new meat shield. He gives you a quick little peck on the cheek.
8 cities. They smell like shit. Like actual shit. Oh look, there goes a cricket.
I believe that was just a small child.
It's Earth Ganassi. And they can't help when the geodes sprout. That's just part of what they are.
Regardless, the city is yours, but we will go ahead and we will pick up on this next week. As you guys have finished your dinner, and you now find yourself in Demiurge, the city of monsters. And with that, to all of you watching, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for watching this with us, enduring our delightful story, our fun, our quips, our very interesting conspiracy theories. I'm so proud of all of you. With that, if you liked what you saw, hit the like and subscribe button. Follow us on Twitch. Follow us on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook. Stalk us, if you will. But regardless, we will be back next week with more. And with that said, thank you all for joining us. Thank you to my players. And to the rest of you, this is CEN. Good night.
Good night.